So, no operator, I want your opinion on how sorcerers are going to interact with ninja in the Forest of Death.
Yeah, so sorcerers in the Forest of Death are going to be something that's very, very interesting in my opinion, because obviously the Forest of Death is a setting that really fits shinobi and ninjas because they're able to hide in the shadows. They're going to be able to get sneak attacks on people, and they're going to be able to use the best of their abilities in stealth. Now sorcerers aren't necessarily ninjas and they don't prioritize stealth, but one thing that I feel like a lot of the sorcerers will be able to immediately get into, specifically the three people that we'll be talking about, is Reggie Starr even says it himself in the manga that sorcerers are just con artists. And all they're going to be trying to do is getting that second scroll to go to the next level into the Chunin exams. So while just as shinobi are deceptive and hidden, sorcerers aren't afraid to pull some nonsense on people either. They're not going to be afraid to take someone off guard. They're not going to be afraid to jump someone 3v1 if they need to accomplish their goals. So while they won't necessarily be stealthy about it, they're not going to be afraid to pull up and be violent. That's one thing that especially people like Yuta, Maki, and Hakari, especially with their performances in the culling game, are going to have no problem with.
Yeah, the only one of the JJK big hitters trio that might even try to do some like stealthiness is Maki, and that's just because she has absolutely no cursed energy to be sensed. I mean, we even saw it a little bit whenever she was fighting Sukuna, where she comes up beside Sukuna and he's surprised, like he didn't know she was there or whatever. So you definitely have some of the like, Yuta's not going to be disclosing his techniques or anything. He's going to be trying to trick people, maybe copy some jutsu or something like that. And Hakari is really the one that you really can't expect any stealth from him. He's gonna come out, he's probably gonna try to, hit a jackpot off the rip and just get into it. So the first people that I thought would be appropriate to put them up against, just because how it was in the main timeline, is the Sound Trio. Now, the Sound Trio aren't going to have a specific goal like they did in the original manga, where they're trying to test Sasuke for Orochimaru or whatever, because Orochimaru told them to. This will just be they all run into each other. And instead of having, just one of the JJK heavy hitters go up against all three of them, I figured it would be better, at least combatively, if they all fought one of them. So you could say Hakari gets Kin, or Maki gets Kin, whatever. Hakari gets Kin, Maki gets Zaku, Yuta gets Dosu. Since Yuta's the leader, Dosu's the leader, might as well put those two up against each other. Now, generally speaking, Dosu is gonna get killed pretty quickly. I don't know how you feel about, Hakari reacting to Kashimo's lightning or whatnot. I've talked about it before. I think that generously it's a pretty genuine feat. If you take the feat as genuine, it doesn't get Hakari that high anyway. It's like massively hypersonic plus. It definitely doesn't make him a lightning timer, but I mean, like, if they have reactions like that, the sound speed attacks probably aren't going to do anything. The real advantage that the Sound Trio have over Yuta, Maki, and Hakari is that their attacks are invisible. So if, say, Dosu rushes at Yuta and hits Yuta with a sound attack in like his ear or something like that, Yuta's probably going to be caught off guard by it because he has no idea what happened. He can't actually see the attack. How do you think Yuta would respond in a situation like that, where he's getting hit with what may be illusions or invisible attacks?
So one thing that's always going to be interesting for Jujutsu sorcerers to deal with is going to be things like genjutsu, or things that are going to affect the senses, because not a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen characters really deal in that kind of aspect of fighting. But ultimately, in my opinion, it's going to come down to what that sorcerer can do in one given moment. So someone like Yuta, who we know, at least in his own verse, is going to have boundless energy source, so much so that he's able to go up against an old sorcerer like Ishigori, who also has the same kind of feats himself. And Yuta can just do so many different things. that I feel like Dosu, even if he is able to, like you said, get that kind of one-off attack on Yuta because he can't see what's coming at him, or the sound waves catch Yuta off guard, we have to remember that this is going to be a Yuta that one has reverse curse technique that, depending on how you want to say it, reacts to, the kind of damage that it does to the ears that we know Dosu does. I would imagine that it would at least be able to give Yuta some kind of defense against it. So at least if you want to say he can't recover from it, he doesn't get hit from it again. Yuta's not the kind of character that's going to get taken out just by a little bit of disorientation, in my honest opinion. And before I go into how much that Yuta just has in regards to arsenal, different kinds of powers and things that he can do against Dosu, even being completely generous to Dosu, if you want to say that Yuta does get completely thrown off guard, he can't recover, and that ear piercing sound wave that Dosu has really is that debilitating. We have to remember that any fight against Yuta is always a 2v1.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So Rika can help him out there. And I've specifically mentioned Dosu's ability like that first because we know RCT comes from the head, and immediately after Yuta gets hit, he's going to be disoriented. And what Dosu did against Lee is, he ran up. Even though Lee dodged it, the attack still hit his ear because it's sound. And while he was disoriented, he came at him again with another attack, trying to mess him up or whatever. But the thing with Yuta is, like I said, he has reverse curse technique. And even if his gets slowed down by this disorienting that Dosu is doing, Rika can come out and actually use reverse curse technique on Yuta himself in order for Yuta to, recover faster. Now, Dosu's a bit of a blabbermouth. In JJK, that would help him. In Naruto, it doesn't. So since Dosu's a bit of a blabbermouth, if he's telling Yuta, we use supersonic or these sound speed attacks, I think when Yuta recovers, his first response is probably going to be his own, and he's going to use curse speech on him. And what he tells him to do with curse speech, I have no idea. I suspect it would probably be a quick don't move, or maybe even like he used against Ghetto curses, die. Either or. It's hard to say how that interacts with Ninja, because with Ninja they don't have like a cursed energy amount to gauge it off of. Yuta obviously has a ton of cursed energy, so he can use that cursed speech move on basically whoever he wants. But Ninja is hard to gauge, chakra versus cursed energy, which one has more quality or whatever. To say that Yuta could just tell him to die. But I think saying don't move is fair, especially just, give characters access to their arsenal. Saying don't move is fair. And then, from there, Rika and him, just like they did Oro, pummel Dosu.
Yeah, and like I said, curse speech and Yuta having experience with that technique specifically is going to prepare him for any kind of sound ability that he really gets met with. We already know any average sorcerer is going to be able to protect their ears with cursed energy, and completely just stop anything from entering it. And like you said, Yuta can respond with his own kind of sound attack. We also know that even if you want to say Yuta can't paralyze him, again, being generous to Dosu, like you said, how cursed energy would interact with Dosu's chakra. We've already seen partial manifested Rika be able to completely stop Yuji from moving whatsoever. One of the, most durable, one of the, at least most flexible, able to break out of a grip like that character we've seen in his own verse. So anything that Yuta has a problem with, Rika most certainly will not, even at a partial manifesting. I don't think Yuta's going to need to put the ring on for any means necessary against a character like Dosu. I think it's pretty obvious that Yuta just has multiple different ways for him to completely conquer this foe.
Yeah, Yuta's basically just anti-Dosu. If Dosu comes at him, he's not gonna destroy his head with the first sound wave attack or anything like that. And then he's got, he can protect his ears with cursed energy. He has his own sound speed attacks. It's a 2v1. Dosu's really just at a super disadvantage when fighting someone like this. Doesn't get any better, when we go to Maki versus Zaku. because I mean, you know, Zaku attacks with sound speed attacks as well. Like Dosu says, their attacks are supersonic. Maki, you know, is just blatantly faster than sound. She knows how fast sound is, and with Maki being able to see the atmosphere and the like different things in the atmosphere, it's pretty likely that these attacks won't even be invisible to her. So like Maki just much faster than Zaku, much faster than Zaku's attacks, and she's got a sword that negates durability. Like the sword just negates so Zaku, you can't really expect him to do anything. I mean, he'll definitely do much less than Dosu, because Dosu at least had like, he can get the jump on Yuta, maybe like, you know, hit him off guard with the sound speed attack. That same thing isn't going to work on Maki, even though, you know, story wise, she should probably be weaker than Yuta. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but you know, if you want to.
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Like, I completely agree with you. Where I think Maki's extra sensory, with her ability to like just like witness the atmosphere and even like the air around her, would definitely make her able to see Zaku's attacks, no problem at all. And on top of that, she's also going to be 10 times faster. Not literally, but you get what I'm saying. Like, Maki's going to be running around Zaku, no problem. And honestly, I see a scenario in which even if those sound waves do kind of make any kind of threat to Maki's insane durability, I think Maki is just fast enough to cut this man's arms off, no problem. And then what's he going to do? It's the end. And Zaku's kind of a cocky motherfucker, so Maki, that's Maki's specialty, honestly, and just eliminating and popping pimples like that. So I don't think I don't think there's even much to really discuss more about that.
Yeah, and then I mean, we get the Kin, but okay, let's be real. What do y'all want us to say about her?
I had to tell this man her name before we even started, so let that just be everything we need to say.
Like, what is she supposed to do against Hakari? Like, what are Kin's feats? Give me anything. What do you want me to say about Kin versus Hakari? Hakari is obviously just going to beat her up. I mean, if anything, she's weaker than the first two guys. That Hakari is, you know, he scales to the people who beat those guys. I mean, Kin is finished.
Yeah, I don't even think Hakari would have to jackpot for that, to be completely honest with you.
Hakari's probably never had the jackpot. So
if you want to be generous, like, I know in the anime, they actually gave Kin like the bells that she attaches to her Senbon, like, are supposed to produce some kind of like illusionary effect. And kind of going into what we just said, most JJK characters don't have much experience with illusions. Like I said, like domain expansion, and that's all gone. So,
I mean, bro,
again, just easy wash.
If Hakari does hit his jackpot, his brain's constantly refreshing, so it's not like the illusion's gonna last. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, Kin loses, but
being generous again.
Yeah. No one thought she would win anyway. Now, where these guys run into trouble at is if you throw Orochimaru into the mix, because Orochimaru, he's not like the other people that JJK characters get put up against. He's not like the Sasuke retrieval team, and he's not like the Sound Trio. Orochimaru is the real deal. They talk about Orochimaru like, you know, if he wants to, he can completely destroy the country, and I rather you think that means he could blow it up or he could destabilize it. He has the power to do one of those things, and quickly, from the way that they talk about it. He's extremely fast. He's faster than Kakashi. I mean, Kakashi comes up face to face with Orochimaru. He charges up a lightning blade, and the only thing he can think of would be the outcome of this fight is his head getting cut off. The lightning timer carry Naruto scaler Kakashi. He looks at Orochimaru, and the only thing he can think of is, if I fight this guy, my head will roll off of my body. Lightning timing already is just better than what Yuta, Hakari, and Maki can reasonably scale to. I mean, Hakari barely dodged lightning, if you even want to say that, and it still, it hit him. This is a sure hit attack. It was gonna hit him anyway. He barely moved his head to dodge lightning. Kakashi actually, probably struck it, and he doesn't think he can strike Orochimaru. So, but one thing that I do think is interesting, and I want your opinion on it specifically. How do you think that any three of these, any one of them, would handle having a curse mark put on them?
So that's very interesting to say, like, if any of these characters would get put with a curse mark on them. Now, actually, I'm just curious. So, like, do you think, like, they would immediately get debilitated like Sasuke would? Or do you think, like, they'd be able to take it and then just move in stride and just take the power up? Because it just ultimately depends on how you think the curse mark takes on, like, anybody.
Well, so it's like with Sasuke, he happened to survive it, and I want to say, I think it's safe to say that these guys are probably stronger than base Sasuke in the Forest of Death.
Yeah. I definitely think any of these three could, like, actually handle the curse mark. I don't think any of them, I don't think that's killing any of them.
Yeah,
to say the least.
So let's just go through it. So Hakari, probably the most likely to handle it because he's got reflexive reverse curse technique. If anything, depending on how you think the two energy systems interact, that might dispel the curse mark off of his body. The fact that his body just keeps healing, it might reject it and just end up dispelling it, right? And
yeah,
that's if if he's in jackpot. Yuta might be similar if he can have Rika perform reverse curse technique on him, or if he does it himself because he's got such a massive cursed energy pool. Maki is the one that's like, I don't know, because, like, okay, her body is resistant to curses, right? But that obviously doesn't account for curse marks because it's a completely different verse. So if you want to say that those two are somewhat similar, okay, Maki might be able to also resist the curse mark. But it's like, where does it go after they resist or survive? Does it stay on them? Can they now use it? Can they go into curse mark stage 2? It's definitely an interesting conversation, and obviously you can leave comments below, let me know what you think about it specifically. But yeah,
I definitely think, like, Maki, like honestly, you could make an argument that Maki, the curse mark, would even potentially kill her. She would be considered like an average human Joe, an average person, without any cursed energy, without any chakra whatsoever to even defend against it. Like, it all depends on how you think even heavenly restriction works within the bounds of Naruto logic.
Yeah, and it's like, it's definitely weird because, like, if the curse mark requires chakra to fight back, not necessarily strength, just it requires chakra to fight back, then all three of them, you can't really expect them to do anything at that point. But I mean, it's not like, realistically, it's not like they're going to beat Orochimaru or anything anyway. It's more than likely that Orochimaru is going to either pummel them and leave them alive, or just outright murder them. And I think that's fair to say. I mean,
I definitely agree with you because ultimately, like, what it comes down to is with Maki, Maki's attack power, Maki's durability, Maki's speed. If Orochimaru is faster than Kakashi, like you said, I definitely think, despite all of Maki's crazy physical feats, Orochimaru is not going to have any trouble keeping up with her. And Orochimaru definitely has a lot more techniques at his disposal that he'd be able to fight Maki with summoning jutsu, different snakes we know he's capable of, the triple Rashomon. God forbid if, like, Yuta or Rika try and hit him with, like, that maximum cursed energy blast, we probably can guarantee, like, that is going to be able to block something like that. Whether you want to say that Yuta's, boundless cursed energy is able to let him let off an attack that's as strong as I believe it was like a 4-tail Biju bomb. So, like, it all comes down to how we think that domain expansion would ultimately work against Orochimaru. Because Hakari, if you say he gets a domain expansion off, The problem with Hakari and Orochimaru is that Hakari's domain isn't a one-hit KO. You know, Hakari's domain just ultimately exists as a way for him to reach jackpot, which for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, Hakari is going to be immortal to a certain degree. And with Yuta, if Yuta unlocks his curse technique, he gets access to all of the different copy abilities. He gets access to fully manifested Rika that we know was able to throw hands with Ishigori, which is a pretty high durability attack power character in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse. So, I think it ultimately comes down to these characters would definitely have to use everything they have at their disposal to try and fight Orochimaru. And with all three of them coming at him at the exact same time, it just comes down to how strong do you think these characters are able to get, and do we think that's enough to actually press Orochimaru?
And I mean, the answer, like we were saying, kind of just no. So where we'll take it from here is just, you know, imagine they survive the fight with Orochimaru, like, you know, he doesn't actually want to kill them. They're able to get RCT or whatever. And then, you know, they make it to the prelims because obviously Orochimaru doesn't care about stealing their scrolls or whatever. They make it to the prelims, and when they get to the prelims, we'll have them, just for the sake of entertainment, fight the main cast. So since Yuta was the first main character of JJK, we'll have Yuta go up against Naruto, we'll have Maki versus Sakura, and we'll have Hakari versus Sasuke. Now, I've gone over something similar to this already when I did Toji versus the Sasuke retrieval team. Every character present scales to Toji or stronger, and Toji wasn't Toji wasn't losing to the stronger versions of these characters. So, I mean, you know, just break it down. Like the kids, they have no real speed feats that you could scale them to, like the speed of sound. The only one is Sasuke. Like Sasuke's the only one you could say is maybe the speed of sound or a little bit faster with his curse mark form, which Sasuke doesn't use. He's actively trying to repress the curse mark in the Chunin exams preliminaries. So like Sasuke versus Hakari first, how does Sasuke, you know, deal with the restless gambler? Like how are you thinking about that?
So, like you said, like Yuta, Hakari, and Maki, all three of them are definitely at a level where part one protagonists, unfortunately, they just don't have enough feats, or they aren't developed enough as characters to even hold a candle to characters that are almost pretty much guaranteed to be close to the top of their verse. I mean, when it comes to Yuta versus Naruto, at this point, part one Naruto doesn't even have Rasengan. It literally, I think his best move is Uzumaki Barrage, which no matter how many clones that Naruto is able to muster, I think Yuta, again, to emphasize, any fight with Yuta is always going to be a 2v1. Yuta and Rika mowing down a bunch of Naruto clones, part one Naruto clones without Rasengan, doesn't seem like that crazy of a showcase to me.
No,
considering that, like, if Yuta even really felt the need to use some of his power, we have his curse technique, that all of the copied abilities that he already has. Needless to say that if this is a Yuta that just went through the Forest of Death and fought Orochimaru, who knows what else he was also able to potentially get a hold of. And we know Yuta has domain expansion, which we don't know what that is, but I can guarantee you it's enough to beat part one Naruto. Yep. Hakari and Sasuke, I mean, Hakari's domain expansion, again, doesn't have a one-hit KO, so Sasuke is going to be at least able to defend himself. If you want to be generous to Sasuke, the Sharingan would probably at least let him follow Hakari's movements, whether you want to say how their stats line up, if Sasuke would even be able to physically follow the awareness that he has. Jackpot Hakari definitely is going to amplify and make that even 10 times harder. And then Maki versus Sakura, I mean, come on. What's there to say? Six. I mean, stop me when I'm getting a little crazy.
Bro, I mean, who thinks Sakura beats? No one thinks Sakura beats Maki. I mean, you kind of can't. Right? Like, what does Sakura have?
Exactly. That's ultimately what it comes down to, is like these characters, at least at this point in their series, they just don't have anything. Like, even if you want to, like I said, be as generous as you possibly can, you want to equalize everybody's stats and say physically, everyone is at the same level. It just comes down to a battle of experience and how much each character has. Again, just what are they doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's really like Sakura, she's inexperienced as a ninja, let alone a fighter in general. So Maki's got that advantage on her. And then, like, normally, without equalizing stats, Maki has every stat advantage on her, plus being a better fighter. I mean, so, like, you talk about teen Sakura, she's whooping Maki. You talk about adult Sakura, same story. But as far as this version goes, Kid Sakura in the Chunin exams, it's not happening. But I mean, yeah, it's like the JJK trio is probably gonna clear this specific part of the Chunin exams. And I mean, unless they run into Orochimaru, you could kind of expect them to get through the whole thing, at least make it to the finals. We don't want to go into the finals because that's gonna require like another hour of time, maybe more. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for the video. If you have anything you want to say, go ahead.
No, I think it is funny because, like, to end on like the Maki versus Sakura note, like the notes that I have, like, for Yuta and Naruto, Hakari versus Sakura, are genuine. Like, can Sasuke with the Sharingan keep up? Like, you know, Yuta is going to be able to beat all the different clones. Like, Maki Sakura is just a complete wash. She has no chance. Bullying. Like, it really is just embarrassing. Obviously, you know, if you guys do want to see, you know, the final exam, or you do want to see like maybe Yuta, Hakari, and Maki versus like the part 2 versions of these characters, definitely let Six know. I'd be more than happy to come back. But yeah, ultimately, it's pretty clear that the only issue that these characters are going to have in at least this section of Naruto is Orochimaru, because, yeah, Orochimaru is definitely just outstatting them, unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously go subscribe to No Operator. He makes great JJK videos. Subscribe to me as well. And you know, if you want to plug anything, you can go ahead.
No, thank you very much for having me. I sincerely appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. And if you guys like that, go subscribe to Six.